Hello everybody. Welcome to another Zero Streams. And it is August. When did that happen? We had a lot of fun last month playing some games, but we're back at it. We're back in production. Gonna start making art again. But last month I posted episode 79 of Jet's Black Nuzlocke, and I actually recorded some footage of myself working on it for once. It's really difficult to remember to record footage when I'm working on the comic. It just kind of happens whenever. But yeah, I actually got some this time. I clipped it down, time-lapsed it. So we're going to do a bit of a commentary stream again like we've done before. I'm going to be reading through the episode so that everyone's caught up with what I am going to be drawing today. Well, not me, but past me. And then we'll watch the time lapse and we'll just chat about it. And hopefully I have a good time. I hope everyone's here to have a chill, good time. Watcher Zigzagoon is already here in the chat. How you doing? And with that, let's get started. So, I have the episode pulled up. I already off to a good start. I'm good at talking, you guys. Anyways, so I have the episode pulled up, and let's just give it a quick read through, just, to remind everyone which episode we're talking about. Alright, we start with one of those news footage scenes. I pulled this up earlier to give it another read, and I realized the placement of the bubbles is a little weird. You see, I put the word bubble down here because I didn't want to block Zekrom leaving the top of the tower at the top. And I thought because this is the first panel, we would obviously be looking at it first. But because there's so little to look at in the actual panel, my eye automatically went to the topmost word bubble first. So I might have to do some rearranging of word bubbles. But this is the first one. Let's get started. Eyewitness reports claiming to have seen an unidentified black Pokemon. Police have yet to release an official statement, but they assure us the champion is on the case. Icarus City was on lockdown earlier today due to the unforeseen torrential downpour. The storm left as suddenly as it had started. Researchers say the mysterious black Pokemon could be the cause. Team Plasma is likely responsible. And Lenora is sitting in her office, shocked at this news. I figure news like this would probably travel pretty quick. But yeah. I have a lot less information in the title card this time. Part of the reason was because I was a little lazy to go back and recount how many Pokemon I have and figure out what information to put. But I think going forward, I may have to think about changing up the information that goes in the title card. I don't know. It seems like just listing the number of deaths isn't enough. I might put down like how many Pokemon I have left, how many are in a box. I don't know. I have to figure stuff out. And I can, yes, like Zigzagoon says, I can always add it later as well if I decide to. But Jet and Bianca have arrived. This is the first panel that I had to draw the exterior of the museum. I've done a couple of those. It looks different every time, I swear. I understand it's inconvenient, sir. Again, we appreciate your cooperation in all this. Hello there. Sorry, kids, but museum's closing a few hours early today. What? But we just got here. And a little dog pops out. Oops! Oh no! My Pokemon ran inside on his own. Aw, come on. Don't worry, we'll get him back. Hey! Be quick about it, alright? So, where do you think we should start looking? Should we just split up? And then Lil Dog remembers the first time they came to the museum. Ha! That guy ain't so tough anymore, huh? I think these are from the desert. Huh, this one's just a rock. It's just a rock. It's just a... Oh! Hey, I think Lil Dog's onto something. How would Little Dog know where something like that is? I don't know. Maybe Pokemon just know, you know? Being a team means I trust their judgment as much as they trust... Just ran right into the person you're trying to avoid. What are you two doing in here? Can't you see we're trying to close up the museum for the day? Oh, you see, we were... Bianca's trying to, like, think of a lie, but she just decides to tell the truth. Actually, we're looking for a dragon relic. And Lil Dog's pointing at the thing. It's like, chi, it's right there. That's gotta be it. It looks just like the one N was holding. Zigzagoon says, Devious Doggo, big dragon fossils, uh-oh. And what makes you think I'd have something like that? Call it a hunch? She doesn't want to, like, you know, just tell her that Team Plasma told them, because that could get a little, you know, messy. Lenora! That thing right there is what we've come for. Do you even know what that is? The truth is that thing is actually smack. How do you know about that? What proof do you have? Hand me the stone and I will prove it to you, because I just so happen to be the chosen hero of truth. And Lenore's like, no. Slam. And yeah, I mean, Jet, what did you expect? Nope. AVI. So, it seems Lenore knows about what happened in Icarus, and she clearly knows about the White Stone. Yet she hasn't told anyone about it, not even Alder. Doesn't that seem weird to you? You don't suppose she's with Plasma? No, that makes no sense since Percy had tried to steal it before. Oh yeah, true. Maybe she planned to call Alder tonight and just didn't tell us. Oh, which is what we wanted, for Alder to get the stone. You can drop the act already, Jet. I know the real reason we came here was to give you a shot at the dragon. You knew all along? Then you really think I can pull it off? Oh, well, you don't? Well, I don't know, but I do think you should at least be allowed to try. After all, N did single you out specifically. I don't necessarily trust him, but you would think if anyone knew about summoning dragons, it would be the guy who's already summoned a legendary dragon. Yeah, that's what I figured. It's worth a shot at least. But instead, Alder went running off to the desert alone, and Lenora won't even talk to us. Ah, it's so frustrating. They keep telling us not to get involved, but we're already involved. Well, that's fine. We'll just make our own opportunity. Yeah, already in this panel, the museum looks different from the first panel that it showed up in, so... Like, I think there was, like, a separation. Oh, well, whatever. It's the Morphing Museum. Hi, Pokemon Master Wheeler is here! And now it's time for breaking and entering, yep. Alright. I need to make a snack run. We just ran out of coffee, and I'm not finishing this research without it. I know it's midnight, hence the coffee. Yes, I know. I'll talk to you later. Hey, big boy. Mama be right back, so you're in charge while I'm gone. Don't fall asleep now. The dog instantly falls asleep. All right, Lenora has left the building. Excellent. So what's the plan to get inside? I wrote that line with big, what's the plan to get past those guys from The Lion King? And then they dress in drag and do the hula. Can your Musharna use psychic to open the window? Mooney's too tired from the long flight. But luckily, I do have this TM13. Ah, perfect! This is just what we need. Oh, that's right! TM13 contains ice beam, which will allow us to thermal shock the metal frame by heating and cooling it rapidly, causing it to fracture, thus releasing the bolts. Jet, you did us smart! I'm so proud! Do the what thing now? Jet, stop! It'll break! It's only illegal if they get caught. Wheeler says, I know it's midnight, hence the coffee sounds like a Tails line. That dog will be on them like a bloodhound. Give me that, you. Here, educate yourself. Sammy-Poor. Elliot learned Ice Beam. Oh, by the way, can we use Sir Francis? A no can do. He's like a beacon from a mile away. I said beacon, not bacon. Fair enough. That's all right. Elliot's scald should work too. Want to give it a try? Bleh. Oh, you can't really see it on the behind the chat, but I love that bleh kind of water just dribbling out of his mouth. All right, that's good. Now use Ice Beam. Whoosh. Oh, I meant to write Ice Beam across this panel, but I guess it's not necessary. You can kind of see the glass cracking in the background there. And then pop! The whole window pane cracks. Oh no! The glass broke! Don't let it smash! And action scene! Whoosh! Whoosh! Snatch! I don't have any sound effects in my repertoire. Nice catch, Brother Noodles. Sorry about the window, dog. Well, the result is the same. There should be just enough space for us to slip through. Just be careful of the glass. Not so much for getting in without breaking anything. Yeah, even if they get away with being excused for breaking and entering, they still, I mean, for entering the museum after hours, they still broke something, so that's gonna have some monetary cost. Come on then, Ivy. We're going in. Alright. Hang in there, Ivy. Lenora has several Stoutland, but I think I recognize this one. Almost there. Alright, and now for my secret weapon. A doggy treat. Hello, Cornelius, remember me? Oh, why it isn't little Miss Bianca. I was wondering who was making such a clamor, but 'twas only ye. Oh, good boy, yes, good to see you too. And I'm making it as dramatic as possible, because for all you guys know, this was the moment she finally gets her hands on the stone. Oi, Biscuits, you shouldn't go over there, haha. Sorry, I'm all out of treats. Jet, what's taking so long? It's a fake! Wheeler says, I remember you drawing this part. Yeah. Me working on this on Discord. What? What do you mean we broke their window for nothing? Oh, I think I made an edit for this part. I should re-upload it. How could this be? It looks exactly like it's supposed to. As if I would leave the real thing lying around for grubby hands like you. I ought to report you thieving brats to the police. Snatch. Bianca, you have betrayed my trust. I wasn't gonna take it. I just wanted to hold it. I swear. Ah! I know what you are trying to do. And this is me saying I want no part of it. Tosses her on the ground. To be continued. It's a trap. Yep. And that's the episode. So now that we're all caught up, I'm gonna go ahead and play the footage. And we'll go ahead and just chat it up. So, let's see what you guys have been saying in the chat. Chat, you are an idiot. Yes. We have firmly established this. So much for a stealthy approach. Scotty ain't gonna let him in. Yeah, you know, it may be a cliche to have the Stoutlands and the Herdiers talk in a Scottish accent, but I can't help it. I love me a Scottish accent, and that big old mustache beard and just the way it looks. Looks like it needs to have a Scottish accent. Here's me trying to draw this panel where Jet's like getting up, or rather she fell down and then she's like noticing the stone. Originally I had her like lying down and sort of peeking, like pretending to be down, but that's up in the panel above. So that's foobar. What's foobar? Anyway, so yeah, the sketch part is kind of the hardest part for me to record. If I don't have a really good sense of what the panel is gonna be, there's a lot of sitting around doing nothing, trying to figure out what to draw. Luckily for these commentary streams, I can go through the footage and cut out any of the additional like waiting time. And as you can see, I'm doing the sketches in thumbnail form. So I have a bunch of pages laid out, and I do them all while being able to see them all at the same time. But this means sometimes I draw things a little too big. I make everything sort of a full length of the page, and then I sometimes shrink it down when I realize I can actually this panel doesn't have to be as big as I just made it out to be. That panel with Jet pointing at the stone, I flipped around because it was breaking the 180 rule. It's a good thing to have these thumbnails to help make sure that things are going in the right direction from page to page as well as from panel to panel. But I think I still end up having some trouble figuring it out. But yeah, so I want her to be pointing in the same direction, but Lenora is on the right hand side. So Wheeler says, also, I love Pokey China. Yeah. I don't remember if it's China or India, but like in one of the Pokedex entries, it says something about an Indian elephant, I think, or an Asian elephant. I think it was an Indian elephant. It was probably one of the Raichu dexes. It was something like the electricity can paralyze an Indian elephant. I don't remember what the actual line is, but it makes me think the regions in Pokemon are like kind of like replacing the real world equivalents, but you have actual like Pokemon China out somewhere with their own region and like actual Pokemon. Like Unova would be in Pokemon America. I don't know. So that's either how it is, or you know, like Kalos is all of France, or maybe it's just in France. It's hard to say. But, you know, Kalos is so... I know it's technically supposed to be big, I assume, but you can traverse the whole thing in, you know, presumably a few days, so, like, on foot. So it's rather small compared to actual France. Wheeler says it's probably not how it is, since all real-world mentions are basically exclusive to Gen 1. Is it? I thought for sure there was, like, some kind of mention in another, generation. But that might be, I might just be imagining that. It's hard to keep track of it all, but in any case, whether or not there's a China out there or anything, there's just nothing that really had the same kind of, what am I trying to say, the same kind of connotation as made in China, you know? I mean, like, realistically speaking, it probably wouldn't even be made in China. Presumably Lenora would have it, like, plaster cast somewhere local, because you don't want to, like, be shipping off the original thing to get the plaster. Either that, or she, like, sent them a photograph. I don't know. I feel like because she's so secretive about it, she wouldn't be, like, outsourcing it. It's just... I threw it in for a joke. It doesn't make any sense, but... the phrase was just too funny. I was trying to think of some, like, Pokemon equivalent, and it didn't come up. Hi, Rat Rascal! Thanks for coming to the stream. Let's see. The lot of sitting around doing nothing for sketches. Yeah, mood on that. I've been using the sitting around part to, like, sort of block in values. It's like my way of doing some busy work with my hands, but still working on the episode. You'll probably see it more later in the darker parts. Yeah, I just completely... I didn't like how any of that was going, so just completely start over. But you see, I got, like, a couple of pages in before I decided to go back and, like, revisit the scene. Which is why it would be impossible for me to do this comic, like, page by page, sketching one page and going all the way through it and then moving on, because the scene continues for several pages long, and I have to know where it goes and if I like how it's going. Wheeler says the reason for why they did that is they didn't have fictional regions. Gen 1 takes place in Kanto region. Yeah, and Kanto's like an actual place in Japan. And so, like, it's hard to sort of understand what they had in mind when they first created Pokemon. We could say, oh, like, that's Gen 1, so it's not canon, but what if it was canon? It's like, it could be fun to think about it as maybe they have an Earth with, like, a whole world of areas that we haven't even been to yet, which I guess would make sense since they're gonna keep making new worlds. Eventually, we might just have enough Pokemon equivalents that each real-world area has, like, a Pokemon equivalent area. Julian Cito Zarco is here. I don't think I've ever said your full username before, so sorry about butchering that, but hi, how you doing, Julian? The world location it's based off of is the Kanto region of Japan. And Johto isn't real aside from the normal being based off a real region. It's Kanto that straight up shares its name with the real world equivalent. Yeah, I think that was part of what sort of stumped me when I was thinking of a Poke equivalent of China is like, I think 3 or 4 of the regions we've gotten so far are all in Japan. So it's like, which one of these would I choose for China? No, like, Japan is not China. And made in... I guess I could have gone with, like, made in Kanto? I don't know. It just doesn't have the same feel to it. I might have to change it later, though, because now I'm thinking since I don't want it to seem like Lenora outsourced the casting, it's hard to say. Here's another panel that breaks the 180 rule. I later fix it by just removing Jet entirely. Because you see, Jet is on the left-hand side of the whole conversation, and Bianca's on the right. And then just suddenly in the last panel, they switch so that Jet is on the right. And I was thinking it should be fine since she's like hardly in the panel, so it's more like window dressing. It's just part of the environment. But it could still throw some people off, so the final has her just not showing, which doesn't technically break the rule. I like break the rule several times later in the comic too. I'll point it out again when it comes up. But I had to flip an entire panel after I had lined and colored and done like dialogue and stuff, and then like when I was rereading it, it didn't flow properly. First 4 are in Japan. I just found out today that Stash Writer is no longer a thing in DeviantArt, which sucks since I've relied on it for all my literature since I started using it. I'm sorry, Zigzagoon. Wheeler says, me looking at the 180 rule. We prefer to think of them as guidelines. Yeah, they're definitely guidelines, but they're guidelines with a purpose. And like later on, see, like whenever I'm concerned about the 180 rule, now I'll show you when it comes up later, it's not because it's the rule so I have to follow it. It's if I don't follow it, it doesn't read right. It confuses people. And like it's specifically, I'll just tell it to you now, it's specifically the panel where Lil Dog is I like to save my sketches, so that's what that was. I wasn't rearranging anything. Anyway, yeah, so here's the full comic sketched out. I'm just gonna go through and like slowly pan across so you guys can see how it looks. I slowed this down to like actual speed, I think. But you see that panel down there where Lil Dog is pointing and Jet and Bianca are running along. In the previous panel, because Lil Dog is on the left side, it seemed like I should have him pointing and them running to the left. But then in the panel right after it, Jet and Bianca are running to the right. And so there's this like weird back and forth that just didn't work at all flow-wise when I stitched the pages together. And you know, it doesn't really come across in page form because the one where Lil Dog is at the bottom, and then the next panel is on the top of the next page. So I didn't realize when I was doing the thumbnails, but once I stitched them together in a long form, I realized, it looks like they're running that way, and then they're suddenly running that way, and it broke my the ability for me to read it properly. Alright. So I take each of those thumbnails and I just kind of scale them up. You know, whenever you take a small rasterized image and you transform it, you scale it from small to large, it will ruin the quality of the image because the pixels aren't there to like make it bigger. But because it's a sketch, it doesn't matter. if it's a little soft. It as long as it's readable, and it is. So I draw them as little thumbnails, and I just scale them up to like fit the whole page. Hi, mouse with the dinosaur tail. Thanks for coming. Mouse says, it's weird to me when artistic and literary creators learn the rules of creation but seem to not fully internalize why these are rules. So they become treated as the unnecessary shackles on my creativity, or as Wheeler stated, guidelines. And thus artistic or literary works are made increasingly harder to understand or digest in the name of artistic liberty. It marks the difference between the creator who truly understands their medium versus the creator who only pretends to and is more interested in pretentiously striking their work out as unique or not like the other girls. It's not so much like, well, I guess if the person doesn't like fully understand why, then perhaps, but a lot of people who use rules as guidelines are trying to say that if you stick too close to the rules, you might be bending your art backwards in order to fit those rules. The rules are obviously there for a reason. Like, people didn't just come up with these rules because they wanted to make your life difficult. It's because it works. There's like a certain readability that comes with doing it that way. But if you if you choose to only follow the rules without thought, it also doesn't help. So like, properly understanding the rules and then knowing when to break them, I think is also important. Certainly at a certain point, it also comes down to taste. Like, I think anatomy could also be a certain rule. Anatomy itself isn't really a rule, it's like a tool or something to understand, but some people's styles really aren't anatomical, and yet they work if it's that's what the effect they want to go for. There are other things that make it look good or bad with or without anatomy. You can have something that's really anatomically correct and still look good if it has balance and if its form is like in a pleasing way, if it follows shape dynamics and all that. But if you're just ignoring anatomy because you don't have the time to bother studying it, then that's another issue, because you're not breaking the rules, you don't have the rules at all to follow. And so, yeah, it also, how much of the rules do you even care about? If it's something you do as a hobby, I don't come after you for the rules, If art is something that you do for fun and it makes you happy and you don't have, don't feel like you need to study anatomy or whatever, and you're happy with the way it is, then I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. But if you're, trying to make a living off of art and you're like, I don't understand why, people don't find it as appealing, and I'm like trying to make money, and I might say, maybe go back and focus on the basics. I definitely need to go back to basics for my humans. I've been sort of cheating for a very long time now, just making it look so that it doesn't stand out as having bad anatomy, and I think as long as it looks alright, I'm happy with it for this comic. But I watch animation sometimes, and I read comics sometimes by people who really understand anatomy, and they're able to like move their characters, their human bodies in ways that like I struggle so hard with because I don't fully understand it. And if I was asking my friend Mouse earlier today, like, oh, it probably doesn't like come across, but I feel like my anatomy needs a lot of work. And she's like, no, it doesn't come across, which is good. That's the whole illusion that I'm going for. But I can tell that it's not great because of how much I struggle with it when I'm creating the thing. In the process of drawing, it's very obvious to me where I can get better. So so anyone have a suggestion as to how I should write without the convenience of Stash Writer? I'm sorry, Zigzagoon, I've never used Stash Writer, so I don't know what you need out of a program to like replace it. Also, DeviantArt is pretty much completely broken for me at this point. I have to go to work and use the Wi-Fi at work in order to even upload anything. Wheeler says, I just write in Google Docs. The place I like to write, I just pull up a text edit document and I write in that. So yeah, me trying to cheat the perspective in this drawing is making a mess, so you can see me like redoing a bunch of lines because I wasn't I wasn't thinking about the perspective, and then I already have all this stuff down, and then I'm trying to fit everything else in a way that looks alright. But you know, the good thing about comics is each panel people will probably only look at for a few seconds at most. So it doesn't have to look perfect, it just has to look, you know, passable. And I did this episode in a slightly different what's the word, order than I normally do. So normally for each episode I would do the line art for all of the pages, and then I'll go through and I'll color and I'll do the shading for the whole episode. For some reason this time around I decided to do each page, completely finish one page and then move on to the next one. You would think because I did that I would have a better gauge as to how long each page takes me to draw. It didn't really, because I even though I recorded it, I didn't look at what the timestamp was before time-lapsing the whole thing. But I do know it does take me way longer than I had thought. And I think part of it is because of all of these backgrounds. We're going back to the museum, and the museum is a pretty big set piece that I didn't want to skimp on. So I went in and drew this museum several times in this episode, and whenever I have to do a background like that, it does take longer. And of course, Lenora's office. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to do her office again, because in the next episode they're in her office. Ah. Zigzagoon, don't write in a PDF. That doesn't even make any sense. What's just use Google Docs or use what is it, Word? That's the normal thing that people do, right? Is Word still a thing? What? Get familiar with Google Docs. It will really be the easiest thing for you, says Rat Rascal. Zigzagoon, you asked for a suggestion and you got Google Docs. Don't ask what Google Docs is. Just go and try it out. It's obviously a thing that you can write in. Just Google Docs, and it'll pull up, I'm sure. Wheeler says, I think Word costs money now. Or did it always cost money and I just never knew because I was 5? I think it's like... It comes with your computer if you have Windows, right? So it might have always cost money, I'm not sure, but it probably just came standard on most Windows computers when you pay for the Windows computer. If you have to pay for it separately now, then... Sorry, that sucks. It definitely doesn't now. Ah. Yeah, well... MS Office is a yearly subscription thing now. That's kind of like, Photoshop, I guess. You used to be able to just buy it and own it, and now it's a subscription thing. Everything's a subscription thing now. It really does suck. It's always been? I know it definitely wasn't for me, but I have a Mac. I can't imagine a Mac would get a better deal on a Windows, but like they gave us a CD for the Microsoft package. I got Excel, Word, PowerPoint. You get all of those things in like a CD, and you can just have it on your computer. It definitely hasn't been a yearly subscription thing always, says Wheeler. Good luck with your writing thing, Ziggs. That wasn't even a thing you saw like 20 years ago. Yeah, it's so funny how a lot of stuff has been happening for a long time. So much so that there are people who, like, see it as, it's always been like this. When I'm like, no, I remember when it wasn't. So it's just such a different sort of perspective on things. Me just adding some details on Lenore's little certificates in the background. Her office definitely also changed from the way it looked before. I don't think I pulled up a reference for the office until the coloring stage. I'm always doing this where I'm like, looking up reference after the fact. So an interesting thing about Lenore's color, she's the only person with a white shirt that has a different color for the shadow. Everything else in the comic has just a standard black shadow with 40% opacity. Unless I'm like going for a certain dramatic lighting effect. Like I think in Chargestone Cave, I probably used the blue shading for everything. But for Lenore's color palette, I should move the logo. Just for Lenore's color palette, I have her shirt as the shadow color. That shadow goes on her color layer instead of on the shading layer. Which I don't do for anyone else. Yep, Mouse, I use black for my shading. It's one of the rules that I chose to break a long time ago. It helps me keep things a little more streamlined. So like it's a rule to Mouse is like, I never knew. I have lost all respect for you. Yeah, when I do illustrations and stuff, I use colored shading, but for the comic, I've always just done straight black for the color. They say don't use black for shading, mostly from the the days when we used paint, you know, you're not supposed to add black paint to darken your colors. You're supposed to add, like, dark blues and reds. Because blacks will always make things look flatter. And it's the same for digital art. If you use a black for shading, it flattens your image. But I'm not gonna go around trying to color pick shadows for every scene and like try and keep them all straight for the comic. So unfortunately, that's just a thing that I decided a long time ago. And it works. It works for me. If I were to, you know, do an actual, like an original comic idea maybe in the future, a new comic project, I'll probably do shading properly, where I color pick shadows based on the environment and whatnot. But black shadows are just so easy to drop down on everything. and also, I always put it at 40% opacity. If I need like it to be a darker shadow, or a lighter shadow, I will move it, but as a base standard, I always keep it at 40, and then I'll like add an additional layer of shading on top for making it darker. Mouse is like gonna put me down like Old Yeller. Rascal's like, LOL, she just redecorated properly. Probably, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, in addition to like shading with black, another color sin that I do is I only use what's it called? Local color when I place color for characters. It becomes a big problem with characters like Sir Francis. With Jet's backpack, it's a little bit of an issue because Sir Francis's brown parts are really dark. So for characters like that, you would normally in like an illustration, the parts that are closer to the light will become lighter than the local color, and the parts in the dark are darker. But for Sir Francis, I just plop in the brown, and then I put in shadow, and I don't adjust the rest of him. But I've been trying to get better with that, because that actually affects the readability of some pages, I think. Thankfully, Sir Francis wasn't in this episode at all, because later on we have like the night scene, and I wouldn't have wanted to deal with his fire for one, and two, he probably would have just completely blended into the background. Wheeler says it's like putting down old Space Yeller. More like Julius Caesar. Then again, it took 30 men to kill Caesar. Did it? Was it not just one guy? I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I think I'm putting down a atmospheric like gradient. Since it's sunset, I like to put a little bit of that over everything. Word bubble placement has always been tricky for me. Still don't do it quite well enough. Yeah, I like to switch up the time of day that the comic takes place in. I don't think I've had another episode that takes place at purplish twilight. Ah, it's a DBZ abridged reference. I've only seen some of DBZ abridged. You know, speaking of Sir Francis not being in the next episode because he's too dark or too bright rather, the episode that Lenora returns in ends up being a night scene, so that was fun. So I'm glad to have Lenora back in the comic. It's been a while, and I guess like this comic is what, like, going on 10 years now. I think I'm in my 9th year of working on it. The diversity in this comic is very low. If I were more cognizant, I definitely would have wanted to increase the diversity of the cast a bit. Unfortunately, I have what, like 2 or 3 black characters, 1 prominent Asian character. The cast is pretty white. You got Juniper, Jet, and it really comes down to the age-old problem of when you grow up in America and like you're watching media and stuff in America, you kind of get trained into thinking that white is default, I think is how they say it, which is a terrible mindset, but it happens almost subconsciously, because whenever you see a person of color in cartoons, it's usually like, oh, or not even in cartoons, in like live action it happens too. It's like, oh, well, that person's an Asian, they probably know kung fu, or they run a Chinese shop. It's never, well, I guess I can't say it's never, but it's very rarely just a character, like, especially a main character, that happens to be black or happens to be Asian for no reason whatsoever. Usually it's like, oh, they're black because we want to talk about, you know, how it is being black in this neighborhood or whatever. There's like a reason for it, whether it's stated or not. Same with like people with disabilities. It's like, I've always growing up been into the whole trope of disability equals character development, where like a character, it's like in Studio Ghibli movies when the girl like cuts her hair at the end and it's like symbolic of something. I'm not sure what the symbolism is, but it's usually like a big moment where she like loses her hair. That's how I saw like disabilities, like amputation. It's like, oh, they'll lose their arm saving the person, and that like is representative of something. But no, you know, I grow a little older and I realize maybe people can just be in a wheelchair for no reason. You know, I'm coming up on another big crowd scene soon. We're going to be in Opelucid City very soon. So I should have some more opportunity to just add some characters like that for no reason other than why not? They exist. For no other reason than these people exist, so let's put them in the comic. Unfortunately at this point, it's window dressing. It's very easy to just drop in diversity in the background. You don't get very much brownie points for just, oh, well, I have a crowd, let's add some diversity. Which is what I've been doing in the past few episodes. If you look in the background of, like, Icarus City, some other place I can't think of right now, you'll see some diversity there, but the main cast, the main cast, you got, I think, there's Lenora, obviously, and Charon are 2 big players, but Lenora has been gone from the comic for, like, ages. And then in the desert scene, you got a backpacker Kane. I decided to make him a character for whatever reason. He's just one of the random NPCs you fight. And then Iris, I think, counts, probably. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. Mouse said earlier, Zero says, my word bubble placement isn't good. Me has been casually mimicking her word bubble placement more and more. Sweat! Okay, I don't mean to say it's bad for anyone who's been like, you know, who thinks my word bubble placement works and has been, you know, studying it for whatever reason. First of all, thank you. That's quite flattering. And two, I work really hard on getting it to work. It's just that first page, the first panel where the readability is really off. Because of this episode, that was just in the forefront of my mind. So, you know, my friends have been telling me constantly, don't put yourself down, be more positive. It's okay to critique yourself, to be realistic when you're looking at things you can improve on, but don't put yourself down like that, because it's not good for you and it's not good for me. And I get that. So I think most of the time, like the panel that I'm lining right now, right? The word bubbles are really well placed. You got the one at the very top. Even though the person isn't on the far left, his word bubble is there, and then I have the next person's right above his head, so you know who's talking, and then I tail it over so that it continues his train of thought, without, being in the way of the other guy. But just the first page of this episode is the placement is so bad, and I struggled with it, and it still doesn't read right. So I was just kicking myself for that one. Let's see. Zeg says, I've been thinking if I'm gonna write Black Ice, I need a banner for that story. I could use Gmod, but I uninstalled that one, so I'll have more gigabytes for other games. Well, yeah, I don't know what Gmod is, so I have no practice with drawing on a computer, which means any drawing I do will look scrap. You know, there are ways around that, but, you know, you can make traditional art look good. Stereotypes and prejudice are horrible things. Yep. So, like, I guess what I'm just saying is, going forward, I would definitely add more diversity if I can. And I can. It doesn't take anything. The only... Okay, I will say this. It's not a color swap. It's not like... It's not easy to add diversity. There is a level of challenge that comes with it, but it's a level of challenge that we need to rise up to, because, you know, if you're gonna do a comic about cats, you're most likely gonna have an orange cat, a black cat, a Siamese, Bergen blue. You're gonna have a bunch of cats, and just because one of the cats is black doesn't mean you're gonna not have a black cat. Like, black cats are really popular. You're not gonna have a black cat just because they're gonna, like, blend into the background or whatever. And don't, you know, we shouldn't treat people of color any different. They exist. Put them in your comics. Maybe make them the main characters. It's something that I feel like I've been a little afraid of in my like growing up. So, like, you most likely know, but if you don't, I'm Asian American. I was born in China. My parents are Chinese. They are first generation immigrants. Came over here, made a life and all that stuff. They speak mostly Chinese, but their English is actually pretty good. And my dad definitely tried to raise us as American as possible, in that, like, he would speak English to us. He wanted us to grow up speaking English, which means that I basically can't speak Chinese or English very well because my parents didn't speak Chinese that much to me, so I never picked much of that up. And they have, growing up, their English wasn't great, so I would like be listening to broken English, and that's all fun and stuff. But yeah, I live in Northern Virginia, and I don't know about the, like, greater political landscape of this area, but I know definitely growing up, my immediate surroundings were very diverse. I've always known a bunch of people of all races and ethnicities, and I've never been treated differently, necessarily because I was Asian. And also I never felt want of an Asian culture because we go to a Chinese church, because a lot of people who come here from China, they find the church is, if it's a Chinese church, a lot of people who speak Chinese go there, and that's where they can meet people who speak their language, and they feel more comfortable there. So I've always been surrounded by Chinese people, and also, I went to public school, so American people. So I guess I was never I didn't pay much attention to that kind of stuff in media. I didn't see, myself much in the, like, I didn't have to see myself in cartoons. When I saw an Asian or like someone Chinese, it almost felt alienating because they were usually a stereotype that I didn't necessarily follow. I didn't know kung fu or anything. So it was easy for me to relate to the white characters, or black characters. It didn't really matter, but the black characters would have their own stereotypes that would go off of, whereas the white characters were just characters. Especially if it's cartoons, it's like, they're just, I hate to say it, but they were the default. And then of course, going into manga and anime, they're not necessarily white, but they're like this non-ethnic looking thing. I've heard the Japanese, when they see manga and anime characters, they see them as Japanese. They look Japanese to them. But growing up in America, they looked white to me. But then again, that wasn't an issue for me. I didn't see these white characters and went like, oh, I'm not being represented. It was like, oh, it's a character. Like, and that if that character liked reading books, I could relate to them reading books. If they like to draw, I could relate to that. If they were, this or that. So I guess when I started drawing this comic, the fact that the characters looked white, I ended up going with canon is king, in that I just won't change it. Even though everything else about Jet is based off of me. Like, Jet is basically me. I when I started playing the game and I started taking notes, I had already went in with the mindset that I would make this character as much like me as possible, because that's the easiest way for me to project how I would feel about each Pokemon that I would get. Keep in mind also, I started writing this comic as a gag comic, so like most of the stuff would have been like reactions and stuff to Pokemon, the new Pokemon, that were just being introduced, because I had never seen them before. So like, if she doesn't wear the girl outfit because I like the boy outfit, and like I don't like girly clothes, so that's why she has the male character avatar. It's a lot of people have asked me, like, oh, is Jet trans? And I'm like, I could very much say that she is, but it would, I feel like it would be a Dumbledore situation, because it's not the kind of story I want to tell, and I'm not gonna put it in the comic. So I can't just, like, say, oh yes, she's trans, and, like, get credit for that. Because she's not. The character I was writing is a girl who gets to be boyish, and I don't want to erase that from her character, because that's who I am. And so that's very much me. Her, like, reactions to Pokemon, like, which ones to send out, and, you know, what she thinks certain, Pokemon would be good for which situations, like sending out Joltik against the Palpitoad, not knowing it was part ground, were all things from me playing the game. But for some reason, it never even crossed my mind that I should make her Chinese. Like, everything about her is based on me, but it never came across in my mind that, oh, I could make her not look like the canon Avatar. It's interesting because later on, as I drew Charon more and more, I started adding parts of my experience into his backstory. If you remember the episode that was basically just a flashback of Charon's childhood, I didn't have a tiger mom or, like, parents that forced me to work very hard. So I you know, that's the stereotype. So I made that his brother, and then he was just a kid who the parents didn't, you know, really pay much attention to. I don't have a big brother who got all the attention, but that's how I thought my parents should act. And since they didn't, I had that kind of feeling that Charon did, where it's like, oh, well, you know, they do care about how I do, but for some reason, not as much as I'm hearing that other parents care about them. But also, like, going home after school to, like, you know, the kind of having his shoes, the shoes off on the side there. I that whole lobby area, is that what it's called in a house? It's not. No, a foyer, is it? I don't know. Anyways, I based his house off of mine. It was kind of fun adding my own experience into it, even though that character was never meant to be like an avatar for me. It's weird how I ended up seeing myself in that character, but I didn't have that to, like, pull from for Jet. And I think it just goes back to the whole, that's what I grew up watching and reading, which is why representation is so important. It's not just, like, people are always like, oh, well, you shouldn't do diversity just to have diversity. It's like, well, why not? Like, people get afraid of being accused of tokenism, maybe, or, like, stereotyping if they don't fully understand the characters that they're writing. But, well, there's a ton of people out there you can talk to that have those experiences. Maybe ask them if it's good. But then it's like, oh, well, maybe they're not interested to, like, answer all your questions about race, which is completely fair. People who live those kind of experiences are probably tired of that, but no one is tired to know that you care about representing them properly. And I just looked up and, like, Jet's face. Yeah, but in any case, let me catch up with the chat real quick. Javier is here! Came in right when I was having an armchair talk. I just kind of went off on a tangent. Sorry, guys. This has just been a thing that's been on my mind for a long time. And now that Lenora's back in the picture, it really kind of got me thinking. The whole time I was working on this episode, I was thinking about how little diversity there is in this comic and how I kind of messed that up. But you know, 10 years ago I was a very different person. I can definitely do better now, and I don't think my comic is worse for it, but it definitely could have been better for it. In any case, I'm definitely gonna try and bring some more, Iris in the comic. Maybe keep Lenora around a little longer. At the end of the day, they're just characters. I don't know the Black experience, and I can't write to that. I'm just writing a story, and it would be nice to have some diversity, is all I'm saying. I'm going to do what I said and actually read the chat. Mouse says, having gotten to know you more, it's always been a little bit intriguing to me how readily identify so heavily with Jet, yet while you're Chinese, Jet arguably somewhat a representation of yourself is white. Yeah, and I actually, you know, Mouse, you're the one that gave me the idea to talk about that aspect of it. But yeah, I just never thought about that aspect of me as being something that I needed in order to identify with characters, I suppose. Though I will say, let me think. Is there any instance when it has mattered? No, I feel like whenever I see an Asian or a Chinese person in media, I was just kind of, I guess if I see myself in them, I get embarrassed. It's almost like I don't want to see myself when I view media. And not because of the stereotypes, but just because, like, I don't know. Maybe going to, like, an Asian church and always seeing, like, old Asian people and how, like, they have weird accents when they try to talk English and stuff. It's just too easy to make fun of it. I'm certainly not want for, Asian representation. You know, you got all of anime and manga. Those characters in Japan. I know Japanese isn't like the same as Chinese at all, but there are some crossovers. It's funny how much stuff growing up I thought was either Chinese and then found out it was actually Japanese, or Korean first, or that I thought was Japanese and found out it was Chinese first, or that there was like a Chinese equivalent. Like, I thought the Japanese invented, manga, or, like, that word, but then my mom was like, oh, no, we have a word for that, too, and it's, how do you say it? Manhua, and as someone who knows some Chinese, I know what some of those words mean, so it feels less made up, which made me think, like, what? Is that the original? I haven't done any research on that, though, so I don't know which one came first. But even then, it's like, just speaking Chinese words is like, I have to flip a switch in my head so much so that it's almost like I'm talking from a different person, you know? It doesn't feel like me. It's almost embarrassing because I'm bad at it, too, so... Sorry, I'm gonna read the chat. Wheeler said, also mood to comics starting as a gag comic. Javier says, I can relate to that, being Hispanic person. Mao says, Lara, your gag comic ended as a gag comic. If you were talking about Nostalgia Lock. Javier said, oh, Heroes of Hoenn is the one that you rebooted, right? Oh my goodness, excuse me. That was so rude. Tails comes in munching on popcorn as she listens to my rant. Wheeler says the OG version of Heroes of Hoenn was like Jet Black Nuzlocke, starting as a gag comic and getting a bit more to it later. Jet Black Nuzlocke never quite came out as the gag comic I wanted it to be, because of the ending of the comic. Or the ending of the playthrough, I mean. After I finished playing through it, if you read my notes, they are like filled with gags the whole way. I'm like pointing to these and it's like, oh, make a joke about that. I'm like, you know, putting in characters that don't have anything to do with the plot and saying just because it would be funny to have them like reappear constantly. And then I finished the game and I'm like, oh no, I can't make this a gag comic. This is too good. I have to do this seriously. I still kept some of that fun, but like completely threw out the gag nature of it. But I like throughout the comic, I think it's stayed pretty funny. So I may have to think about reworking the ending so that it stays a bit lighthearted, just so it doesn't suddenly get dark. I'll have to think about that. Zigzagoon says Polar streaming too. I don't know if Zero knew already saw that. Oh, I haven't seen that. No, I guess, yeah, Polar's new stream time overlaps with mine, but that's okay. I can always catch up on the streams afterwards. It feels like old times. I watched their whole Danganronpa playthrough in the backlogs. So but it's a lot more fun when I can interact with their chat. Ant. Yeah, kill. Wheeler says, which can be hard to remember since the remake of Heroes of Hoenn definitely not a gag comic at the start. It's like if I had started doing Jet Black Nuzlocke as a gag comic and then like rebooted it. That would be what your Heroes of Hoenn is, I assume. Tails says, hey all, hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Tails. I'm doing well. Because I stayed up so late playing Hollow Knight yesterday, I have such a cramp in my arm. So that was fun, since today I had to go to work to like move some heavy stuff. So I put that off until way too late, and then I got caught in the rain. It was like bright sunny day all day, and then right when I wanted to go home, it turned into a downpour. Apparently there's a hurricane coming around tomorrow. Vanilla Blitz is here! Howdy do! Wheeler says tangents are fun. It's the one cool thing about having multiple comics, says Wheeler. What, that people... Oh, being able to do better on the diversity in later comics. Yeah. And like I said, it's like I've been adding diversity, quote-unquote adding diversity, to my comic in, like, the background, but it's not the same as having, like, main characters that are diverse, you know? Mouse is like, I did? Yeah, you don't remember? I was like, man, I really want to talk about diversity in the commentary stream because Lenora's back, but I don't know how to do that without making myself sound stupid. And you're like, just talk about it from your perspective, like, personally. Let's see. Let me just finish catching up with the chat before I continue on my rant. Javier says, out of curiosity, Are there any Nuzlocke's written languages other than English? I know a few Spanish runs, but I'm not sure about any others. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to help you out with that. I only know how to read English. I would love to know if there are like there might be a French comic that takes place in Kalos. I don't know if that's racist. Like, I assume it would be French. But yeah, I don't know. I know a couple of characters in certain comics that like randomly speak French or randomly speak Spanish, but I don't know. And I say randomly in that not in that like, oh, you can't just have characters that speak other languages, but in that I'm pretty sure the people writing the comics don't speak those languages, so you don't expect it. Like, I added Penelope, the Mincino, I think, and she speaks French, and the only reason she speaks French is because when I caught her, she was behind a restaurant, and my brain told me, restaurant, food, ratatouille, French! So she speaks French. And Brother Noodles is like a Shaolin monk, so I made him speak Chinese. And that's all stuff that still survived from back when it was a gag comic. You know, I had Brother Noodles. I was gonna have like a whole, you guys, you don't understand. I was gonna have like a whole section, like a subplot of my comic that would just completely be in Chinese with no translation. And it would just be like, if you speak Chinese, then you get it, but if not, haha, sucks to be you. And I would have to like have my mom help me write the dialogue because I don't know how to write Chinese, and like it involved like a men xiao that would like be the elder ruler of like a society of mianfus, and Brother Noodles was like one of them, and the Mian Xiao like tells Brother Noodles to like go and watch over these humans that are going into their sacred land to like get the dragon stone or whatever. It was I don't know where I thought that was gonna go. At the end of the day, I didn't have the time for it, and like it didn't fit. A lot of the gags that I want to do, a lot of the asides as well, even the ones that aren't meant to be funny, I just didn't have time. It didn't fit into the flow of the comic. I'm really glad I didn't do that though, because that would have been a nightmare. Tail says also psychological studies show that being exposed to people different from yourself in media affects how you view them in real life. You mentioned a lot of that when talking about Marinette. It's a good stuff to hear about. Marinette is from Miraculous Ladybug, and she's mixed race. So she's Chinese French. Her mom is Chinese, her dad is French. And Marinette herself, according to some of my friends, doesn't look Asian at all. In fact, there's another character that's really white, and she looks more Asian to some of my friends. Personally, when I see the really white character, her name is Chloe, and she's like the bully character. So I see her like squinty eyes, and I think she's like sly and like, you know, cunning or like devious, you know, and that's why her eyes are kind of slanted. So if she looks like more Chinese or like more Asian or like similar than Marinette, that's what I would have like chalked it up to. My initial thought wouldn't have been like, oh, she looks so Asian. Marinette, though, like, I guess it's just from, like, years and years of reading manga and watching anime where the characters have, like, giant eyes and they're supposed to be Japanese students. I was just told, oh, she's Chinese, and I'm like, she looks Chinese. She has black hair, so that helps. It's not until later when they introduce like a Japanese character and she looks really Asian that you can like kind of tell with them next to each other how less Asian Marinette looks. But it doesn't like that wasn't the big thing about the conversation. What came up really was that there was a lot of discourse around the show because Marinette was half Chinese and didn't like act very Chinese. Like she doesn't know how to speak Chinese. She doesn't I don't know, dress in Chinese clothes. Which you might think is a stereotype, but I have Chinese friends who really like to lean into that aspect of their culture, and like they go out and buy traditional Chinese like shirts and things to put in their hair. So it wouldn't be out of the question for her to dress like that. And I guess the show, when it was in, if I remember correctly, when the show is being advertised or like promoted before it came out, the showrunners were like really pushing that the diversity angle, like, oh, the main character is really Chinese. So a lot of people were upset that she's just a French kid who happens to have a mom who's Chinese. And I was saying that as someone who, I was even born in China, both of my parents are Chinese, so I'm not mixed at all. But I don't know how to speak Chinese because I grew up in America. I know more, I guess, because my parents will speak to each other and they sent me through Chinese school. But like, yeah, for me it was actually super relatable that she couldn't speak any Chinese, or at least like really sucked at it. And that's another thing with like that. I think being Asian has a little bit of a boon, is since there's like a whole country of people who speak our language. For me, it's just really funny when I hear people speak it really bad, and also when I see white characters or black characters or any characters who are like not Chinese speak really good Chinese or supposedly good Chinese. It's cool. It's nice. It's nice to see that. It's not like I imagine if you're like Native American and your language is dying out, it would be super insensitive to have like characters who are of your ethnicity and they've just lost their culture and they can't speak the language, which is still realistic, but it no longer has that like that level of levity to it that it could have for someone like me. What am I talking about? Tail says, Zero, that's terrifying for something I must have said many minutes ago. Mouse says, so many Pokemon are going to die. It doesn't just mean that a lot of Pokemon are gonna die. I feel like the way I played the end was so bomb. I had never been so good at Pokemon in my life. You guys, when I post the last episode, I'm gonna post like the play-by-play of the gameplay so that you can see what I like did, like the decisions that I made. Wheeler says, I kind of feel that with Swish. Let me see. When I was looking at Swish with its Godzilla Pokemon and stuff, I was like, this will make a great gag comic. But after finishing it, I was like, wait, this would make a great Golden Sun sequel! You're already thinking of sequels and you still haven't finished your 500 comics that you're working on. Javier says, holy moly! Wait, this is Gen 5 game after all. You guys are scared because of the end of the gameplay. Okay, I getcha. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Tails is dreaming to have a Swish comic. But after finishing, if nobody was an Ultraman, if nobody makes an Ultraman or a Power Rangers reference, then what's the point? Wheeler says, bonjour, mon ami. Tails says, Zero's casual, oh, a hurricane is coming, has the California, oh, we're gonna have an earthquake mood. I never thought about that. It really is just like, stay indoors, check your windows. Zig says, make up your mind. What am I making up my mind about? Mouse is like, don't harass Wheeler. Yeah, leave Wheeler alone. She's a good kid. And very Confucian. Mouse says, yeah, same. About Marinette, I presume. Frankly, I don't judge people's nationalities by their eyes. Yes, but Zigzagoon, we're talking about character design here. In which case, it's a very deliberate choice on how you draw your characters. But yeah, it's definitely it's okay. So going back to what I said earlier in the stream, there was for a long time a sense of how do I say it? Like, I wasn't necessarily afraid, but I didn't feel confident in adding diversity in my cast. I think is the right word. Because let me think. I have Jet, who's white, but she's white because the game presumably that character looks white compared to like Sharon, I guess, who has squintier eyes. I don't know. But I have had other characters before. Let's see. Because I did want to do a comic at one point about werewolves. And I had these characters who were werewolves, and it would be like they would be in a RV, a camper, I guess. An RV's too high class. They would be in a camper van just traveling across the country. And you would like find out about their backstories. They would get to know each other, become friends, and then I would crash their RV and because of some plot relevance, and then everyone reading would be sad because it would be like oh, we spent so much time with this car kind of deal. Anyway, I think all three of those main characters, the werewolves, plus the two vampires that I was also going to add, all 5 of these characters were white. And I didn't sit down and decide they're white. I just sat down and drew a character. And the way they looked was like they weren't anything, basically. But then if you asked me to make diversity happen, I would have, like, my brain told me I would have to accentuate certain features to make them look ethnic. And I didn't know where to draw the line between stereotyping, like offensive stereotyping, and representation. You know what I'm getting? It's like, so I eventually, deciding I wanted to add some diversity, I decided to make, the girl character, Native American. Poor choice, let me tell you, because the reason I wanted to make her Native American was because she was the character that, was more connected to her wolf parts than her human parts. So that was why I chose that. But also she had black hair. And so that looked more, that looked easier for me to like, work with, since Native Americans have black hair. So, you know, the other two, one had blonde hair, the other one had brown hair. It was just a color palette thing. Yellow, brown, and then black. I liked those colors for the wolves. Yellow being blonde being the white wolf, okay? Because the color of the hair would be the same as their fur. Anyways, I got confused. I didn't know how to make her look Native American. I was like trying to give her a bigger nose, maybe, this and that and the other thing, but yeah, it's like I didn't know how to do diversity back then. And then if you told me to like do draw a black character, like, oh, would I give them like, what should I give them dreadlocks because, you know, black people do have dreadlocks, or would that be a stereotype if I had like a black character and they had dreadlocks? Like, how would people view this? And it comes down to like I was trying to tokenize the characters. I was trying to be like, oh, well, let's have one black character, one Native American character, one, you know, this, and it was bad, you know, but I was like, what, 15 to 17, I was, you know, I just decided to not do it. The story, I mean, I've dropped the story since then. There's no werewolf story anymore. But where's the line? It's hard to say. I would have to sit and think about it myself and do some more research. I think the bottom line becomes you gotta talk to people who aren't like you and see what their side of things are, and also like if hopefully we can get more media with diversity, we would get something that can show us how to do it, you know? If you can see how it's done, then you can easily see it how to do it. Well, what's the word for, it's like when a little kid sees themselves on TV and they're playing, like the person who looks like them is playing a doctor, and then they suddenly think, oh, I can be a doctor because there's someone who looks like me and they're doing that. When we grow up and all of our cartoons are white, it's like, how do you do it if you don't have a precedent? Anyway, the bottom line is we should all be doing diversity. I don't have any like reason for this talk. I just wanted to shoot the air and you know, get a conversation started about it because it's been on my mind, but I don't have answers for you. I don't have like tips or guidelines for you to follow. It's stuff that I'm working on myself, and I just wanted to talk about how I've both worked with and failed to work with such things. I'm going to catch up with the chat, and then we can maybe talk about a different topic. Let's see. The chat says... I gotta find where I left off last. Give me a sec. Wheeler says, I thought you were gonna say, I haven't even done the first trial and already have plans for a sequel. You're still in the tutorial. When does the tutorial of Sun and Moon end? It never ends. Wheeler's like, werewolves! Javier says, the lone wolf. Zigzagoon says, same mouse. You like bunnies, right? That's random. Wheeler says, doesn't sound like Zero's werewolves are lone to me. They're alone together. Mouse says, I love them. Wheeler says, Mouse hates bunnies. Ever heard of Bucky O'Hare? I have no idea what that is. It's an obscure show. I think it was an old cartoon. Whoops, whoops, whoopsie. Yeah, and get this, she was also blind. And, she could, like, use her super werewolf senses to, like, not be blind. It's the whole, like, super powered disability character. Which I think it's because I really liked Toph from Avatar and I really liked Garrett from Quest for Camelot, so I was all about that back then, so I made a character like that. I write what I've seen. I'm a very, I don't know how you would say it. What's the word? It's like when you see something and you make something derivative of it. I'm a very derivative writer. The stuff I make tends to be heavily influenced by what I've taken in. Wheeler says, "Aw, I missed the werewolf story already." Yeah, it's the way that it was. It definitely it's so much of a mess, and I have so much baggage. That's another thing why it was hard for me to make diversity happen with those characters, is because I had already drawn them in their nondescript form, and that was how I saw them. Like that character, I may not have started with them like in my head saying this character is white, but because they look like this now, they're not black. So if I draw them black, then it's not that character anymore. It's that kind of loop in my head, which is part of why I tossed the idea. It's like I couldn't work with it anymore. It became that there was so much baggage I couldn't like I couldn't even really move forward with like a plot, because all I had were characters and their backstories, and the backstories weren't even like fully formed. I think one of them went to college at some point and then like killed a roommate or whatever. I don't remember. Javier says, one advice I got from somewhere I don't remember is that you should prioritize the personality more than anything else. Yes, for good story, definitely. But if you don't, how do I want to say this? Well, I can't say you because I don't know you, but I know definitely for me, if I don't cognizantly prioritize diversity, it probably won't happen. It's not nature for me to do stuff like that. So I have to be aware and do it purposefully. I'm not saying adding diversity will make your story better. You still have to write a good story. And in that case, yes, prioritize personality, and also goals, and also flaws. If you have a character with a great personality, but they don't have any flaws, they're not relatable. If they don't have any goals, you don't have anywhere for the story to go. Is Zigzagoon talking about Bunnicula again? Let me catch up. Mouse said, Native American stereotype werewolf Toph. I love it. It's so embarrassing just seeing it written out. But yeah, that's where I was at some point in my life. Javier says, I don't know how to react to this. Wheeler says, looks at the One Piece inspiration ATD is starting to take. Wheeler, I fully support the One Piece inspiration. Whatever it is, I support it. Javier says, wait, so does that mean Across the Divide is never gonna end? And then Mouse says, good. Rat Rascal says, went to college and, like, killed a roommate. Oh, you know, as one does. You know. Yeah, I think he, like... I had, like, all these tragic backstories planned for these werewolves, you guys. I had, like... Okay, so, like, the blonde werewolf guy who was like the white wolf, right? So like he was my favorite kind of character trope where you meet them in the middle of their story. They've had like some dark past or whatever, but now they kind of just wander around and they're like always smiling and just taking life as it comes, and like it seems like they don't care about anything, but really they know a lot more than they let on. And then the other guy, like he turned into a werewolf and like his whole family gets killed. Either he kills them or like the other werewolves that are like evil killed his family, and like he thinks he killed them or whatever, but he's like on the run. And then he meets up with that guy and so that's the brown wolf. So the brown wolf meets up with the guy, and like you'll have to like slowly find out about the white wolf's backstory, where he like went to college, and I don't remember if he like, I think he had 2 roommates. One of them ends up dying at the end. I don't remember how, but I think it has something to do with being turned into a werewolf. And then the other guy gets like paralyzed from the waist down from him like pretending to kill him, but like then he turns him into a werewolf, and now he has to like bring him like food and stuff, like he's his caretaker basically, but the guy hates him because he turned him into a werewolf and also put him in a wheelchair. and then like there was a whole thing with like a organization of werewolves that would like go out and kill werewolves because they don't want a lot of werewolves around or else they'll get discovered. Which is another thing that I wanted to do because of like that's just the thing that you do with these kind of stories, is your characters have to be a secret. Like no one can know that they're a werewolf. But then, like, the more I thought about it and the older I got, I'm like, with the internet and stuff, there's no way that would stay a secret. Hello, my stuff. Look, everyone, my stuff is here. Watcher's like, man, that's dark. That was the kind of stuff I thought was cool when I was a kid. I really liked, if you guys ever saw Darren Shan, I think, the vampire assistant, the Cirque du Freak book series. I think I got a lot of inspiration from that. But that book series does it a lot better because it's actually good. I really want to read that series again. It's about vampires, but I wish there were more people on YouTube that like talked about it. I think I found one video that talks about Cirque du Freak. Noodle Doodle is here. I'm late and it's about JBN. I'm getting a new PC next month on the 23rd. Good. I'm glad you're getting a new PC. Javier says, who knows? Maybe that werewolf story might resurrect again. Oh, guys, I saw this joke the other day. Okay, so if the werewolf story resurrected, if I brought it back to life, and I decide to make them all cowboys, would that be a reincarnation? Okay, I'm done. That's the joke. Here says, oh good. I've been looking for my stuff. Javier says, never give up on an idea. Never mind. So normally for so yeah, I'm looking at the stream again. I've been ignoring the stuff on on stream that you guys are watching, but yeah. So normally when I do things with lighting like this, because you know, in the scene it's twilight. So the sun's going down, the sky is purple, and that's why everything's kind of purplish pinkish. I generally will color the thing its local color, and then I'll splash in on top a layer of color, like a purple. But for these backgrounds, I wanted to do them so fast that I just straight started with the already adjusted color. I think I just kind of eyeballed it based on another panel where I did do that, because the building is supposed to be gray and the door is brown, and of course the ground would be like green and dirt colored and stuff. But I just kind of said, you know what, if these colors were slightly warmer, what would they look like? And I just went with whatever came to mind. It's an idea that I think might work for the humans. I might try it in the next episode, but you'll see later. Or, I mean, you saw earlier when I was reading the episode. This is episode 79 for people just joining us, if you wanted to go and check it out on my page, jetsblacknuzlocke.com. But like, so Lenora, the reason we were talking about all this diversity stuff is because Lenora is back. And of course, in my infinite wisdom, I decided the episode that the black character comes back in should also be a night scene in which it's very dark. And what I normally do, right, is I color everything the local color. Take the Charstone Cave, for instance, right? I color everything the local color, and then I put a filter over everything to make it look blue. I do the same later in the night scenes. I color everything local, and then I put over it like an overlay. I put over it a multiply, I think, also, to make it all look bluer. Because, you know, at night, nighttime doesn't just make everything look darker. It also makes things look off color in a way that I can't describe because I haven't studied it. And also a bit desaturated. When you have less light, things also appear less saturated. But I'm sure there's a better way to do it, and like one way that I've seen it done is in the Land Before Time movies. I don't know if the first movie does this. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I know the sequels do this, in which they kind of take the local color and just change it so that everything is more blue and more green, and instead of like making everything really dark. So it ends up still being really readable. Everything just looks like the wrong color, but it's not the wrong color, it's just the color is filtered through the night, you know? As a kid, I thought it was the wrong color because Littlefoot's supposed to be brown, not teal or whatever they chose. But I'm wondering if for characters like Lenora and for Jet's hair also has this issue. If I should just, like, you know, make it not a darker color, but, like, put in a different color from brown. And, like, if that would get across that it's nighttime, but also not make them super hard to see. Which is the fear when you're doing a darker scene, you know? Mouse says it is very valid to give up on an idea. Yeah, especially if you have a whole lot of ideas. And I don't think I will ever completely give up on an idea, in that if I ever do come up with, like, a story in the future, the character designs might come back, I might reuse concepts. It's just that specific instance of the idea that I had in my head all those years ago will probably never come to life. And I've given up on it in, like, I'm not pursuing that as a concept anymore. I've had the idea and it'll always be in the back of my head. And so it'll probably rear its ugly head at some point. But, it'll also be completely fine if it doesn't. And I have plenty of other ones, don't you worry, guys. None of them are fully realized, but I have plenty of characters bouncing around in my head. Noodle Doodle is dabbing. Thank you for the dab, Noodle Doodle. Javier says that's valid too. Wheeler says we're watching a stream. Are we? Where's, like, Twilight? Like the sparkly pony? Twilight wings? Twilight like the love story? Oh my goodness. There was a game where the VA for Discord voiced the guy. Javier says the werewolf story is way better than Twilight. Oh, thank you. Wheeler says, and he says Twilight referring to the time of day with a weird emphasis on it. What do you mean? Yee-hee. And Jet with a finger gun. Sir Francis says, what do you have? Jet says, a finger gun. A gun! That escalated quickly. Wheeler says, I couldn't help but think ponies because of it. Noodle Doodle says, I'm back, yet I take no offense. Okay, be right back getting ice cream. I'm black and white and the Unova games are my favorite. My stuff says, oh, I was around when the first couple episodes were out. I noticed the change in art style. Were you inspired by Steven Universe or Adventure Time? Big inspiration Adventure Time was. I mean, it was eye-opening how you could get away with the simplest of anatomy. Like, the noodle arms from Adventure Time are some of my favorite things. I don't think I would ever be able to, like, lean in fully on that, but I've started to, like, incorporate some of those kind of noodle proportions into my animal drawings when I'm drawing traditionally, and it's a lot of fun. I don't know if I would be able to do a whole comic in that style, but it's definitely gotten me less worried about doing proper anatomy for Jet's Black Nuzlocke. Like I said earlier in the stream, I do want to work on my human anatomy only because if I don't get it right, it's gonna continue to suck for me as I draw it. It's like when I can't fully understand it, it's suffering to try and draw it right. It may not change how it looks, but if I can get it to feel different when I'm working on it, if I can get more proficient in that regard, then I would be very happy. But Adventure Time, I love that show. It's got some great character designs, and yeah, I really like how it looks. Steven Universe came a little too late to have been much on that front, but I guess, let me think. Yeah, I mean, Steven Universe pretty much draws from Adventure Time too, I would say. I can't speak of it from any place of authority because I don't know. But since the person, what was her name? Rebecca Sugar came off of Adventure Time, I would imagine she brought over some of the design philosophy from that show. Vanilla Blitz is here, says, how long does it usually take for you to make an episode? I've been meaning to work on my comic for ages, but I'm a bit intimidated by how long it would take. You know what? Let's take a look, shall we? Let me scroll over. Oh, I threw away all of my raw footage. Okay, never mind. If I had to try and guess, I'd say it takes, I don't know, like 15 hours, or so for each episode. Each page, like, you see how I'm working on a single page and not the whole strip? So I draw these in pages, and this episode I drew starting with the sketch. I sketched the whole episode first, but once I had the sketch down, I did the lines, the color, the shading, and the background, and the dialogue all... Maybe not the dialogue. The word bubbles. All at the same time before moving on to the next page. And each of those sessions took quite a while. I was able to do some of them in one sitting. But some of them actually took more than a day, I think. So it's a give and take. You know, some pages are more complicated than others as well. But overall, it's yeah, I think it's about like 15-ish hours. JBN, but it's Jet dancing to the work meme song while you work on JetBN. It's funny. Javier says some game store gave the Pokemon Let's Go games a higher price than Swish. What on earth? Mouse of the Dinosaur Tale says only hack artists are inspired by Steven Universe. Noodle Doodle says I have $360 in games in 2020 so far. Wow. You have, like, purchased in 2020? Master Wheeler says, I know I have a lot of ideas. Oh, I mean, she says, I know I have a lot of ideas. Mouse says, too many ideas can become an active hindrance to the artistic process. Wheeler says, at least if you act on too many of them at the same time, I might say, too. I have too many pieces of ideas, but I don't have any full ideas. That's where my problem arises. My stuff says I can agree with Mouse. Noodle Doodle says, same here, Wheeler shipping a male Purloin with a Pampor, also male for story and a Blitzel, the Snivy jumps in old character's bio. Okay. Zigzagoon says back. Wheeler says, you missed a message when I was talking about Twilight. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. Noodle says, I'm mixed with both. Zig says, by the way, Zero, during my Nuzlocke I came across a Sandile and I was so tempted to name her July, but I bailed on that and got another one, named him K-Rule. That sounds closer to your naming convention, Zigzagoon. Too bad Adventure Time ended. Will happen. Okay. Gosh, even the rough concept sketches are a joy to watch. Yeah, I wish I could record more when I'm sketching. I always forget because I'm so focused on trying to make things make sense that I forget to record during the sketch concepts. The sketch part of it. But I post every other month when I update the episodes. I also post the sketch comparisons on Patreon. So if you guys follow my Patreon, you get to see the episode and then next to the episode the sketches and like how they look side by side. And I really like how the sketches look sometimes. At times I'm like, this gets across the idea and I just want to like leave it like that. The line art part is such an ordeal. It definitely makes it look better, but it's also such an ordeal that sometimes I'm like, why couldn't I just make the sketch work as the final? But not everyone is as quick to agree with me on that one. Rat Rascal says, yo, speaking of this episode, I'm about to fight Lenora in a white run I'm doing. Wish me luck. Oh my goodness, good luck, Rat Rascal. I hope you don't die. I wiped to Lenora my first time. That's the reason my Nuzlocke isn't official anymore. Lenora! It's all your fault! And also, Rat Rascals, you've started posting your, Nuzlocke, right? So, everyone should look up Rat Rascal on DeviantArt. Are you posting it on DeviantArt? I think it's on DeviantArt. And go read, their new Nuzlocke. It looks really good. Everyone's wishing good luck and stay safe. Not possible, but thank you. Wheeler says, I would never act on too many ideas at once. Of course not. You only ever act on a reasonable amount that is completely doable. Fought her before, but she's always terrifying. Wait, do you fight her multiple times? Oh, you mean like you've played the game before and done it. Now says, I'm glad someone agrees on my Steven Universe point. Noodle says I make it a blah 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 blah. Okay. Namesakes are my thing for those who didn't know. Yes. Javier says, I try to avoid having too many ideas at once, and yet there's a run idea that just refuses to go away. Maybe those are the ones you need to cultivate, to nourish. Zigzagoon says, by the way, my Duat has a namesake as well. Guess who? Is it Skipper Joe from Redwall? Nerdbird Word. I'm back. It's me, my stuff. Hey, it's my stuff again. Squawk! The screen. Wheeler says, imagine me showing the sketches to my comics. Why? They seem fine. They're really messy, but like you can still see what's happening. I really like seeing sketches. I'm trying to like add a dog in this panel because I wanted to I didn't want Cornelius to like show up out of nowhere later on, so I'm like, maybe I should have him like in the lobby in the previous panels, but then I gave up on that idea because he just didn't fit. Rat says, oh no, I didn't know you wiped. Valid though, I know a Let's Play channel who wiped, but they continued for the story. People get it. Yeah, I was too attached to my team at that point. Even though all I really had was a Lillipup and, what was it, two Pat Rats, a Pie Dove. Nothing I couldn't, like, replace, you know, but, like, for some reason I was too attached to them. Also, thank you for the shout out. Yes, of course. Bird Nerd, my stuff, says, I'm doing a black run with unevolved one-stage Pokemon. I'm stuck on Gets's, but will end him. Good luck. That sounds terrifying. Going up against Gets's with one-stage Pokemon. Stage 1 Pokemon. To be fair, somehow the number of comics I'm working on is actually doable for me. Mostly. Somehow. Javier says, this is a nice moment. Between Lenora and Cornelius, I felt like I was making Lenora a little too mean. Because this whole scene with Lenora has been in my head for so long. For so much of this comic, it's all been like, I don't know if it's all been leading up to this point, but I've definitely had this as like one of the moments in the future. How do I say it? It's a landmark moment, you know? I know at some point we're going to come to the museum and we're going to try and get the stone, and Lenora, in her infinite wisdom, is not going to let us take it. So in my mind, I've always been like thinking of her as this like mean, like, don't give the kids the stone, I'm protecting the secret or whatever. And I'm like, no, she's got puppies. She's like guarding the stone for a good reason. Like she thinks she's doing the right thing. So like, I wanted to give her a nice moment where she's by herself with her Pokemon and she's not yelling at kids, because there's going to be a lot of yelling at kids in like when she comes back. Sounds like I need a ATD rule set black and white next. Or black and white 2. I heard black and white 2 can be pretty fun because it has a lot more diversity in the Pokemon. Though of course, I don't know myself, since I've been staying away from black and white too. When I finally finish this comic, I'm gonna reward myself by playing it, and I don't want to get too much spoilers. Yes, somehow in 2020, I am still mostly spoiler-free of Black and White 2. I just know something about Hugh and a Laperd gets stolen. Javier's like, Lyra says, I love to live dangerously. Zigzagoon says, hey guys, can you identify a Pokemon based on its cry? Nope. The only one I can identify by cry is the dilly 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 whoop of Cricketune? Is that the... Yeah, Cricketune. I think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like... That one I obviously know. And then the Stunfix goes... So I recognize that one. Stunfix and Cricketune, those are the only ones. Wheeler's like, I can identify Pikachu from its cry. My entire comic has been leading up to Lenora petting a doggo. Bird Nerd says, I really do like how you characterize Lenora, though. She's no nonsense. Yeah, she's in a hard place. You guys will get to find out why next time. So we've got a little over, I guess exactly 45 minutes left in the stream. If anyone wants to, has any questions about Jet Black Nuzlocke that they want to ask, or, if they have any, questions about my art in general that you want to ask, go ahead and pop it into the chat and I'll, see if I can get through any of them. And if not, I might go through and like read some comments on my deviant art on the episode 79, because I get a lot of really good comments, you guys. I know I definitely don't make a habit of reading comments on other people's like divinations, but I get some really good comments. A lot of people will like do rundown analyses of what happens in the episode and what they think is going to happen, what they think it means based on previous episodes. It's a lot of fun. So I could go through and read some of that later as well. Let me keep up with the chat. I really recommend playing Black 2, White 2. It's a completely relaxing game with zero chance of getting wiped in a Nuzlocke. None at all. Are you sure, Javier? I don't believe you. Methinks thou dost protest too much. Noodle Doodle was like, Wheeler, stop with the Pikachus. And Wheeler's like, I can't! It's a condition! Not stopping the Pikachus is my brand. It really is. If Wheeler stopped with the Pikachus, I would be like, who are you and what did you do to Wheeler? Watcher Zigzagan asks, how would you rate Jet's skills as a trainer? I ask in terms of experience, competence, talent, all the required traits for a good trainer. I'd say she's about C class. She knows a little bit, but she didn't pay attention in school. And a lot of the knowledge she does have is, I wouldn't say outdated, but it's like too simple. It's like simplistic. It's like she knows about some type advantages and disadvantages, but a lot of them she's forgotten. And if you start mixing them like dual types, she probably has no idea what to do. She's basically on par with me. Like I said earlier in the stream, she's basically me when it comes to a lot of things, and Pokemon skill is one of them. So whatever you would rate me, that's what she would be. Bird Nerd Word, my stuff, says, I love those kind of comments. I know, right? Mouse with a Dinosaur Tail asks, how has the methods of production of Jet Black Nuzlocke changed over the decades? Well, when I started Jet Black Nuzlocke, production-wise, it was being drawn in a free software that came with my tablet called Corel Painter. And then I moved on to Photoshop, and now I am working in Clip Studio Paint. So, in that regard, it has changed, like, literally. I've changed the mode of production. The way each software works also affects the way I draw it, I guess, because of the tools available. Like, the way I do color now is way different than how I did color back then. When I first started working on this comic, I would color in the characters with a paintbrush, and, like, scribble in each bit of color. I would just go through and I would, like a coloring book, color in the page. And then I moved on to using a magic wand tool, and now I've upgraded to using a proper paint bucket as my tools advance. And I think in terms of the way I draw the characters, when I first started the comic, I told myself I'm going to draw humans and I'm going to give them a neck, because I know I never give my humans necks, and humans have necks. I'm a human and I have a neck, so I should draw humans with these neck things. And so if you look at the earlier episodes, a lot of the humans look a little weird because I was, like, elongating the neck. I didn't know how to draw people. And then over time, the necks kind of, like, they kind of got phased out as I returned to my comfortable default style of, like, it's just head and then article of clothing that covers that clavicle. Depending on the angle or, like, the pose the person's in, I may have to put in a neck here and there. And if you go through, you may also notice the contour of the face, the, like, chin area specifically will change depending on where it is in, like, what position and stuff. There's very little consistency. But, like, it's if it looks good, I don't really see why it shouldn't work. So it's not something that I'm worried about in this comic. I don't have to draw anyone with their shirt off, I guess is the thing. I would be in big trouble if I ever had to draw someone in, like, swim trunks, let's say, because I don't really know how I would draw humans in my style with all of their anatomy. Because it's not so much that... Okay, the weird thing is I know enough anatomy that I know when I'm doing it wrong. So when I try to do it right, it looks really weird with my style because I'm not thinking about anatomy when I draw my people. When I'm drawing Jet, I draw Jet. Like, her hat is part of her anatomy because that's how I draw her. It would, like, I don't necessarily know how she would look in a swimsuit. Which will be an interesting thing. If that ever comes up. Let's see. I'm sorry if that didn't answer your question, but process is a bit hard for me to talk about. Like, method... Wait, you said methods of production. Let me think. I think that answers the question. Method of production, like the software and stuff. Okay. Javier asks, what are the main inspirations behind Jet as a character? So... I mean, apart from gameplay, obviously, I I don't want to... Okay, so how do I say this? When I say Jet is basically me, it does kind of boil down to she plays Pokemon like I play Pokemon. In terms of personality, I don't know if she's much like me at all. She may be how I would want to be, but I don't know if that's even if it's even that like one-to-one, because I definitely make her very stupid sometimes. It may be how I think I come across, or like how I perceive myself. I don't know. But a lot of parts of her are inspired from, like, are based on me, but a lot of it also isn't. Like, I think Jet is way more better at socializing than I am. And to be honest, a whole lot of her characters just came out of what would be the most fun interaction between her and this other character. I would have a character of interact with her, and then what would be the most fun way for her to interact with them? Would it be fun for her to be, I don't know, crazy? Then I'll make her crazy. Is it more fun for her to be the straight man and like the scene with N in the forest, you know, where he's like freaking out and she's just kind of like, chill out, dude. She's kind of playing the straight man in that scene, and that's because that joke worked better if she was like that. She's kind of laid back in like Castelia when she's approached by the homeless person, because she don't care. A lot of it just comes out. Let me reread the question, because sometimes I talk a little and then I forget what I'm... Main inspirations. Okay, and then let's see, what else? But aside from that, so like the whole concept of the game is this nebulous concept of truth versus ideals, right? So I knew at the end of the day I needed her to be able to embody the spirit of truth, or whatever it is Reshiram wants, in order to select her as the hero. So I made her start out a little dumb, so she has somewhere to progress to. And that might have been part of it as well. I can't think of any specific characters that I've been inspired for her. Yeah, if Jet reminds you of any characters, plot them in the chat and I'll see if that rings a bell. Because, like I said before, my way of writing is very what was the word again that I used? It's I can't remember the word, but it's like based on things that I've consumed, media that I've watched and consumed. It all kind of sticks in my head and comes out in my own sort of writing. So it's very possible that she's been inspired by some actual character and I've just kind of, forgotten. Or rather, if she wasn't like directly inspired by, I might have taken like subconsciously based her on how they act. Bird Nerd says, did Sir Francis's character arc kind of end when he evolved into Pig Knight? He seemed to be less in the story as the comic went on. Yeah, he definitely overcame his weird little angsty stage. I don't know if I would say it completely ended when he evolved, because I think it continued to change, going from like he started sort of unconfident with like self-confidence issues and not really believing in Jet, to I I don't know if it's like he became more confident in himself, but he goes from learning about that to then being able to pass that on to other characters. But I'll be honest with you, Sir Francis's arc wasn't super, like, solid in my mind, even when I started out. I'm not entirely certain if I had anything, like, bigger than that going on, or, like, planned. So, like, his whole the whole reason why he's like that is completely inconsequential to the story. There is, like, a reason that I had come up with, because I like to know things about my characters, but it's not important. It's not something that has to be, like, addressed or fixed or anything. And then after a while, it sort of evolved into just specifically, he doesn't trust Jet to be a good trainer and keep him safe, and he's not good enough of a fighter to, like, for that kind of trainer, and he just kind of wanted to quit, I guess. And then he was able to, like, what Bottles was supposed to represent is lighting that kind of self-confidence in him, but also the he got angry, and then he, like, found he can fight for people he cares about and protect other people, and it's not just a like, not just expecting Jet to protect him as the trainer. I guess maybe his perspective shifted. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think I had anything concrete, which is the beauty of a comic, is a lot of the text can be suggested. In a novel, I think you pretty much have to, like, write a lot of stuff out. But I can have, like, a facial expression or something, and it gives across the sense that characters are thinking without telling you what they're thinking about. But yeah, I did want to do more with his character, and I'm not sure what I could do at this point because it's been so long. I guess in a sense, because it really did kind of end there, didn't it? I think at some point during our Platinum stream, we did talk about this, about Pokemon evolving and having their character arc end. So you can either have the character arc and then they evolve, or you can have them evolve and then have the character arc start, maybe? But there's no one way to do it. She's basically as good as me. An A+. I've seen that firsthand. I don't know how I feel about it, says Wheeler. Ah, Corral. The art program shuffle. When you first started the comic, was the gameplay already complete? Also, did you... Oh, this is from Rat Rascal. When you first started the comic, was the gameplay already complete? Also, did you have your characters developing in your head as you played along? Or was that all in retrospect? Did character arcs, personalities ever influence your team composition battles choices? No, I don't think personalities really took form until I started drawing them. So that's another thing that affected Sir Francis's character, I think. I didn't start the comic expecting him to be that sad. That just ended up being how I drew him. And I guess there was no reason for him to be like that anymore when he evolved, so I didn't draw him angsty. But like Jet also, a lot of her personality came out when I started drawing her. The characters sort of come into their personalities as I draw them. It grows out of the design and their expressions. And also, funny enough, the composition of the page, like where I can fit them in. When I was playing, it was a lot of my notes was for like jokes and stuff. And like I did have some idea of maybe like this character can be like this, maybe this character can be like that. Like I had some idea that Fire Dog would be a tougher character and Lil Dog would be like the cute little dude. But yeah, the whole game was completed. The playthrough was completed by the time I started drawing. I did do some like sketches before, but the comic itself, no pages were done before the gameplay was done. Let's see. Sixagoon says, what inspired you to make Hydreigon look like King Ghidorah? If you answered that already, I don't remember what your answer was. I didn't. Hydreigon is just, I just wanted to make him look more like a dragon. I'm not a big Power Rangers person. I assume that's where King Ghidorah. Oh no, that's a Godzilla reference. Yeah, I'm not much of a Godzilla person, but like it's just, you know, Hydreigon's design has always been weird to me because its extra heads are always drawn, the necks are always drawn as if they're arms, which I get the idea is like, oh, the sock puppets or whatever, but like I want them to look like necks. I want it to look like a 3-headed dragon, not a 1-headed dragon with heads at the ends of its arms, you know? So that's why I drew it like that. Humans have necks, press X to doubt. Oh, the screen. I don't, let's see. Wheeler says, I don't have to draw anyone with their shirt off. No Kukui from Jet confirmed. Oh, looks like the footage is over. I'm going to, replay this real quick from the beginning just so I can finish reading the chat and you guys can have something to look at. And some of you who showed up later can see the beginning. So Professor Kukui would be a challenge? Not necessarily, because I would probably design him without a shirt. Like, I would start that character that way and have it in mind. It's because I always see Jet with the shirt, with the hoodie and the stuff on. It's weird to imagine her without it because it's so much part of her anatomy at this point. I can do it perfectly fine with mine. I gotta cross-dress to get into the 4th gym. Okay. Do you intend to do a sequel to Jet's Black Nuzlocke after this? Nope! I will not live long enough to do a whole sequel for it. But I have been throwing around ideas of one just for fun, but I do not intend to follow through on those ideas. I just like that. I just like thinking of what would happen afterwards. Mouse says, Jet gives me the vibe of a good few shonen protagonists. That's yeah, she's kind of a conglomerate of shonen protagonists I've seen over the years. Pajama Sam. Okay, that's some formative media right there, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Pajama Sam in there. That's what I love about making comics too, says Bird Nerdword. Wheeler says, it blows my mind that I didn't get the reference with the name Bottles. when I first read that part. And now I not only know the Banjo-Kazooie character, but know Zero well enough to absolutely know she'd name a Pokemon after a Banjo-Kazooie character. I can't believe I saw a mole with a drill and didn't think Gurren Lagann at all. Like, it didn't even cross my mind. And I had watched it by then, for sure, I think. But yeah, no, Bottles was definitely, and because I named him Bottles, I did have the idea that this would be like a mentor character. Unfortunately, he died, so, or maybe fortunately, unfortunately. I mean, mentor characters do tend to die, so maybe I was jinxing myself with that one. Javier says, the sad thing is that one of my starters became an actual character after evolving into his final stage. One of my starters became an actual character after evolving into his final stage. That's not sad. That's fine. Watcher Zigzagoon says, I just realized I've been putting Jack's teammates in more combat than him, yet he's the main character. I'm so dumb. I mean, it's fine. Sir Francis didn't want to do any battles at first, so it's whatever. Me worried of Hydreigon sweeping my whole team. Yep, that's a worry, alright. Bird Nerd says, I never liked Hydreigon's stubby feet. His like weird feet underneath, like that don't, they look like tattered pieces of fur. They don't look like feet. I don't like Hydreigon's design, really. Noodle Doodle says, Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail. Javier says, talk about giving a new meaning to tuck to the hand, right? Just like smush. Jet and Galar people. When I first saw Jet, I thought Luffy. And then Bottles died too, so you were extra jinxing yourself with that. I know. But there we go. All caught up with the chat. I can't believe the footage ended before the stream. But I think since there's nothing else to watch, I might switch over to, let me see if I can do this in the middle of the stream. Oops. Move all of this off and make this a lot bigger. I think we can do a little doodle to end off the stream. You guys wanna, pop a Pokemon in the chat. Yeah, doodle, bird. Everyone pop a Pokemon in the chat and I'll do some doodles as we wind down. I got one Bunnelby and one Poplio. I got an Absol. But yeah. Thanks for all your questions, guys. That was a lot of fun. You guys asked some good questions, and there are some things that I don't really think about much when it comes to the comic, like production methods and character arcs. It's all things that I should probably pay more attention to, especially the character arc thing. But yeah, definitely going forward, now that we're in the final stretch of the comic, I hope everything starts to come together. And unfortunately, with a comic with so many characters, I mean, a Nuzlocke is gonna end up with a lot of characters, right? You got all of your Pokemon in your team, your main characters, the rival, the evil team, I'm trying to draw this Bunnelby from memory, and I'm starting with the ears because that's the only thing I can remember right now. And then on top of that, I've added professors. I've made some of the gym leaders into characters. So you can only really get so much development with a cast that big, but it's been done and really well. I can think of, you know, One Piece has gotten there a couple of times. Full Metal Alchemist definitely has an enormous cast that really comes together at the end. So I want some good Full Metal Alchemist level investment going on by the end of this. I know I'm aiming high, but you might as well. It's a Nuzlocke. There's no stakes. Try to be the best, and if you screw it up, it's like, well, it's not like you're in publication or anything. So Bunnelby, I actually really disliked until I saw it in the anime, and it's like this. It's this cool sumo dude. Changed my perspective on this character, this Pokemon design completely. But I still don't know it well enough to know how to draw it. Okay, let's see. Draw it sitting next to a tank is the best match. A tank? The benefit of ATD. No trainer, max team of 10. Wishful thinking. Did someone say steaks? Meat! I think you confused Bunnelby with its evolution. Did I? That's very possible. Is Bunnelby the pre-evolution? Now, this guy unfortunately still has a lot of Zipper T vibes for me, so I don't know. I'm also trying to draw these all in one go. You see, I don't have a sketch or anything. So forgive me if the proportions are a little off. Is this the right one? What's the evolution then? Is that Diggersby? These Kalos Pokemon, man. I'm never gonna keep them straight. Oh, he has like some kind of ruff around his neck. Does he have a tail? I'm gonna imagine he has a tail, right? Like a little cottontail. Okay, that's one. Let's speed through these, all right? Wheeler says, "Don't worry, I never keep any of my Pokemon straight." I think Poplio has ears. I'm gonna say Poplio has ears. I think Poplio also has a neck ruffle. I think that's about it. Absol. I haven't drawn an Absol before, I don't think. Now, Absol is a Pokemon that I really liked in the animated movie, the Jirachi movie. But design-wise, I actually never really liked very much because of the way its face looks. It looks like, you know how there's like a type of cat girl in anime where it's just a person, but they have like a cat nose? That's how I saw Absol. It's the way they draw the face is very human-like to me. I've always thought. And so I didn't like how it looked until I saw it in the animated movie, and then I was like, okay, I guess that's cool. It was a lot cooler in motion than it was to me in the game. How do I want to draw this? Have him kind of crouching. I think his claws are like this. And then there's one up here. That's how I remember it. But yeah, that was quite fun. I haven't done a commentary stream in a long time. It's good to be able to talk about the comic again and just chat with the peeps without having to split my brain activity. I will not be doing another one of these for a while. The next episode isn't being recorded, so I don't have footage for that one. And going forward, I just don't know enough about where the story is going to be taking me to really be splitting my brain activity between recording and working on the episode. And besides, it's my process doesn't change that much from episode to episode. It was nice to do another one again, mostly because it's been so long since I've done one. So like, so much has changed. I'm now using Clip. I am doing thumbnails, which I didn't do before. If further down the line, something else, you know, is new, then I might do some more recording. I can try recording some more sketches. Maybe the sketch parts will be more interesting. But other than that, yeah, I'd rather be making new art on the streams. So next week we will be going back to drawing, but another thing that we haven't been doing for a long time, I need to move on, is, so like what I'm doing right now, drawing these Pokemon from memory at the end of the stream that you guys have suggested. Oh, why am I putting a thing on top of Snivy's head? Snivy doesn't have one of those yet. Where you guys like suggest Pokemon in the chat and I draw them. I like to do these at the end of each stream, but in the past I would roll a dice and do some sort of Pokemon challenge. You guys remember that? It's been a long time. And I'm thinking maybe next week we will do a whole stream of that. So 7:30 EST, same time, same bat channel. Come on down and suggest some Pokemon for me to draw. We got different challenges, like, you know, this is classic draw Pokemon from memory, but we also have redesigning them to be a different element. We have making them into mega forms. We have drawing them in a different style, maybe like doing a Gajinka. Fusions are always a lot of fun. Those are some of my favorites, where we fuse two Pokemon together. And then of course the classic Peanut Gallery one, where you guys shout random things, random descriptors, and I add them all to a Pokemon as I draw it, and we always make some kind of monstrosity that way. So yeah, it'll be a good time if you guys have the chance to come by and check that out. But that's all the time that I have for you guys today. Sorry for anyone who suggested a Pokemon and I didn't get to, but come by next week and you might be able to suggest again. A whole child, says Master Wheeler. Zigzagoon says, will you have enough room for a wily Lucario chasing a Dodrio? No, but next week I might be able to. That sounds like a fun style shift. Javier says, that's my son now. Wheeler says, absolutely beautiful. Javier says, Absol is always cool. Yeah, those are always fun. Watcher says, nope, don't think I was here for it. Wheeler says, same 0 time, same 0 channel. But not channel 0. Don't switch your TV to channel 0 because I'm not on cable. Birdword says, I will try to come next time. Oh, it'll be ever so good to have you back. But if you can't make it, don't worry, because I will be, you know, drawing a new little thing at the end of each stream, so you can catch those. Thank you for coming to the stream, everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and catch you all next week. Goodbye!